Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how I painted these white orchids. I start off by just using a little bit of masking fluid where there's a little bit that stands out against the dark background, and now I'm going in with the Hake brush and wetting the entire page. I've taped it down with brown paper tape. It is a £300 Bockingford paper, and now I'm using a bit of paper to wipe off the excess. I think I overdid the water. And now I'm going to come in with a wash. The colours I am using are Aerolin Yellow, which is a nice cool yellow, which suits this painting. There's a lot of cool light around this. And I'm also going to be using, in this instance, some Quinacridone Coral, just for the centres of the orchids. So I'm mixing up the colours. And then I'm just going to put them on loosely and let them run. It's a very light wash at this stage. I'm just using my 1 inch, I think it is, Aerolin synthetic brush for this. I switched around for the rest of it after this. And now I'm coming in with the Quinacridone Rose. I'm mixing it a bit with the yellow, so it's not too bright. There's a couple of areas that have that warmth in the centre of the orchids. And now I'm going to encourage the paint to move around the page by tilting the board backwards and forwards, up and down. And then I let it dry and I come back into it once it's dry. Now I have a plan for this painting. My plan is to work on the orchid petals as much as possible, and then I'm going to go in with the darker areas which are around the orchids, and then I'm going to come back into the petals and finish them off. So now I'm working in with the petals now. I'm still using the Aerolin Yellow. There's quite a lot of it. And I'm just going to put some music on so you can watch me do this stage. The other colour I'm going to be bringing in before I go is Cobalt Turquoise. Now these three colours I stick with entirely, apart from a little bit of addition of Pthalo Turquoise for the darker areas. And then when I do the background, I introduce some Winsor Blue. I think it's the warm shade. So I'll put the music on and I'll be back in a second. Now here I'm adding some of the Cobalt Turquoise. It's a lovely soft, cool, again, blue. The colours are mostly cool in this painting. Back to the music. As you can see, if you mix the Aerolin Yellow, the Quinacridone Coral and the Cobalt Turquoise, you get this lovely neutral, which I really like. I do enjoy mixing my own neutrals. And that works for the very shaded areas of the flowers. And now back to the music. The board is upside down at the moment because I'm working in the top dark areas, and this is where I have the darker mix of paint here now with the Winsor Blue and also some sap green, which I'm just laying in rather randomly to suggest dark leaves in the background. So this is rather negative space painting. I'm painting everything that isn't the subject. I really enjoy negative painting. And it really does bring out the petals of the orchids. At the top there are smaller areas to fill in, which take a little bit of precision. But in the bottom there's a couple of larger areas which are quicker. There's a bit of the green going in there. I'm just going to let the watercolour do its own thing. I did consider using salt, but I don't really want much texture in that area. It has enough going on as it is. And I'm working in the bottom of the painting. So we're at the correct orientation now. Got a little bit of the Cobalt Turquoise going in there, so it ties in with the rest of the painting. There's a tiny area up here I want to fill in, so I'm using a smaller brush. Mostly I use a larger brush where possible. I start off with a large brush and gradually get smaller as the painting goes on. That's it, I've switched to the larger brush now. More or less just wetting the page, using the smaller brush for the delicate areas to get in, and the larger brush to fill in the larger areas. And now I'm dropping in some of the colour. And now the orchids actually pop from the page now. This area is smaller, so I've switched to the smaller paintbrush for this area. And I'm going to go over the entire negative area again. I allowed it to dry by itself to allow the colour to flow, and I've just pulled off the rubber cement, the masking fluid, from the area I had masked. I really don't enjoy using masking fluid because it leaves too much of a harsh line, so I'm spending some time softening it. And now I'm going to go back in, I'm going to finish off the petals. I need to work on the centre of this one. And I'm adding in the speckles that's on the middle parts of the orchid. And all I'm using is just a, what am I using? I'm using Quinacridone Coral. But I think I've mixed something in with it to make it darker, and I can't remember what. I think I added alizarin crimson to it. Some of these marks are quite tiny, so I'm using a very small paintbrush now. But you probably will agree that it does make a difference adding these marks. Using a weaker solution down here. now for the fun part. The painting is complete, and now I'm going to tear off the tape using the hairdryer to soften the glue. It stops, well, nearly stops the paper from tearing. So as well as using the heat, I'm pulling away from the centre of the painting, because if you pull inwards, you're in danger of tearing your painting. Right, I'm struggling a bit getting it off there. I needed a third hand, really. There we go. And I think it does tear just a tiny bit on the edge. And it does on the top piece that I take off as well. But luckily I'm pulling in the right direction, so it doesn't matter. It'll be covered up with a mat anyway. And so here is the final painting. Let's move the board out of the way. There we go. I really enjoyed painting this. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope it gave you some hints and tips on colours to use, on how to deal with the negative space, and how to approach painting a white subject matter. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.